It's pretty cloudy here in Atlanta, but it is sunny inside, especially because I have an amazing guest with me today. But you are joining us on Onward on WCEG, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. I'm your host, Adrianne Hamilton Butler. And Onward really is just a series of conversations that we have with everyday people who have triumphed over the unexpected, the unwanted, and the uncertain obstacles that occur in life. They've triumphed to be able to inspire and encourage others. And so it's a great opportunity to learn. And if we're going through things on our own, just to be inspired so that we can move on and help others. So today, I'm happy to have and excited to have Bobby Cobb. Thanks for joining me today, Bobby.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Bobby, we've met recently because I have a new job in Gwinnett County at Corners Outreach, and Bobby has been really instrumental in bringing a program to Corners Outreach through his nonprofit, Cobb Global Outreach. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But Bobby, first, I just want to talk a little bit about you because one of the things I think that intrigued me was your own history. And actually, before we move on, I was remiss in saying that you can listen to us at WCEG Talk Radio or WCEG Network on YouTube and stuff, Facebook and LinkedIn. And that anything that we talk about today, of course, would be the opinions of the host and our guests, not of WCEG. So, Bobby, I know that you're from Phoenix City, Alabama. How many people live in Phoenix City?
Well, approximately 50,000.
Okay, so it's not as small of a town as I thought. For some reason, I thought it was a pretty small town. What is it near?
Near Columbus, Georgia, Fort Moore.
And
Um,
that's where in Columbus, you went to school in Columbus, correct? You went to
yeah,
college?
yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So what made you leave Phoenix City, Alabama to come to Georgia?
Job opportunity. Um, I worked for the IRS.
Okay, so you go to college first or did you go to the work for the IRS first?
Went to college first.
Okay, so you were intrigued by being able to go to Georgia, go to college, and then you went to work for the IRS.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so how many years did you do that?
Uh, six, 5 or 6.
5 or 6. And so you were based here in Georgia.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then you moved on to do other things.
Yes,
And so your whole background really is in the importance of financial literacy, right?
yes.
Yeah, and kind of having under that understanding of what it means to be able to be financially stable. Where did that interest come from?
Well, take you back. I recently got out of the Navy, a Navy veteran, and a year later, approximately a year later, on my brother's Burrell's birthday, I was the victim of a home invasion
Mhm.
where I was shot in the head, couldn't talk, paralyzed on the right side. Then I was transferred to the VA Center in Tuskegee,
Okay.
where I started to progress. Actually, I took my first steps on my mother's birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was her birthday is on February 21st. I
Okay.
got shot on January 13th.
Okay.
So after years of speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, I decided to go back to school.
Okay. Okay.
So I graduated CBCC, a junior college in Phoenix City, Alabama, made the dean list, transferred to Columbus State, where I got my bachelor
Excuse
in
me.
business administration, computer information systems, where I also play as Kappa Alpha Psi. Then I went on to pursue my master's degree from Columbus State, got my bachelor's in public administration, general government, and then I started a nonprofit called Great Ones.
Okay.
So Great Ones, I was just going around motivating the youth in Phoenix City, the different churches. But then I got a call. I got the job for the IRS
Okay.
in Chamblee, Georgia. So I packed up all my stuff, moved to Chamblee, Georgia, and then left Great Ones in Phoenix City.
Okay. So I want to go back and thank you for being willing to share that story. Because I just want to go back a little bit. What inspired you or motivated you to move on? Because that's a significant trauma. One that can cause a lot of depression. One where people could see where they can't move on. Um, what was the motivating factor or factors for you to be able to not only heal physically, but to move on to go to college and get your master's and have a career?
What led me to move on, 2 points I got to make. Um, First, I saw the suspect shooter um, at a nightclub. My best friend had offered me to go out with him for his mother's mother-in-law's birthday party. So I accepted. While I'm at the party, I received a tap on my back, and I looked over my shoulder, and I didn't honestly recognize him. And he said um, his name, and I recognized the name, of course.
Yeah.
And he said he wasn't the shooter.
Mhm.
So at that moment, I said, God, it's in your hands now. And I turned away and walked off. So that point kind of released me
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
from all the pain and pushed me forward. Now, I am still to this day have depression issues,
Mhm.
but I'm managing.
And so I thank you for sharing that, because I think one of the things that you shared that's really important is, freeing yourself from carrying that burden. Because a lot of times what traps us is when we hold on to that anger, we hold on to the why me. And so I appreciate the fact that you're willing to say, I still struggle, but because I was willing to let some of this go, I was able to move on. And so I think that's a powerful testimony for you. And so you had started this one nonprofit in Phoenix City. You moved to Chamblee, Georgia, and you started working. What then compelled you to start Cobb Global Outreach?
Good question. So fast forward, I got married, got divorced. Then I had moved to Peachtree Corners. I was sitting in the living room watching CNBC when God spoke to me. What are you doing with your life? Uh, and I was here by myself, and I'm having a conversation with God. I like, I don't know. So at that moment, the TV was on CNBC. They was talking about ways to narrow the wealth gap.
Mm.
I was arguing with the TV, and until John Hope Bryant came on and said it starts on when I'm changing your mindset, and it starts when you're a youth.
Mm.
So
Mm.
approximately 2 days later, Cobb Global Outreach Inc. was founded and created.
I like that you said it starts with youth, because um, part of my background is in the homelessness space. And you see so many, especially men, African American men, who are on the street. And a lot of people think that it started at that time when you're an adult. But really, homelessness didn't start when you were an adult. The physical manifestation of homelessness may have started then. But really, homelessness starts a lot earlier. A lot of it's trauma that we've experienced as children. A lot of it is how we cope with pain, and people cope with it in different ways. And to your point about how we view money, a lot of that comes from how it was instilled in us as children. And the fact that, to your point, a lot of our kids aren't educated about money management, how money is a useful tool, and how to become self-sufficient. So talk a little bit about who you work with and how you work with them through Cobb Global Outreach.
Yes. So Cobb Global Outreach Inc. Its vision is to see every middle and high school in the United States offer financial literacy.
Yes, love that. Love that. And so what do you provide, a curriculum? Do you engage with the schools, talk to the schools? How are you going about trying to get more schools to have some type of curriculum or workshop? Or are you partnering by providing some type of curriculum externally?
Okay, so good question. And right now, I'm partnering with banks, different financial
Okay.
experts
Yes.
to go in the schools to talk to the students.
That's great. I love that. And you also partner with nonprofits, correct? Like
Yeah.
Corners Outreach, where you connect organizations and bring in folks who are employed by banks or financial planning institutions to come in and talk to teenagers about um, things like paying rent, saving money, employment, the importance of being able to set aside some of your funds. How is that being received? Because a lot of times kids don't really relate to that, right? They're thinking about the fact that it's mom and dad who are pretty much footing the bill for everything. How do you find it communicating with kids? And I'm assuming that you're probably talking more to kids of color and probably kids who don't have a lot of resources.
Yes. So I just want to plant the seed.
Okay.
So they can say, hey, I think I learned about this. I heard about this at one of the events.
Right.
So they won't be totally caught off guard.
And so one of the things I know, I went through your website and we talked a little bit about this. You have some interesting stats. And a lot of it really, frankly, is around African American households and wealth in the households. And a couple of things that kind of caught me. In 2016, Black median household net worth was only $18,000.
Yes.
In 2019, Black wealth or earnings per household was $24,000. We African American people, almost 20% of our households live in poverty. Talk a little bit about how you see the role of Cobb Global Outreach in helping families of color to become more economically stable, to gain more financial literacy, and to be able to move forward, to be able to provide for their families and to move out of poverty.
So with Carbon Global Outreach Inc., we want to focus our attention on ways raising awareness, creating a culture of excellence. So meaning just because you are in poverty don't mean you got to stay in poverty.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so I want to kind of talk about that a little bit because I think there's a statistic that says that about only 4% of children who grow up in poverty will actually be lifted out of poverty.
Oh, wow.
That's a very, very small percentage. And based on the work that you've seen, you're in the schools, you're working with kids, you're seeing kids in some of these nonprofits, and I'm sure you've worked with families. Share some of the things that you're seeing and how those of us in the community can be more of a part of helping others, walking alongside these kids and their families to raise awareness of what it means to be financially literate and economically stable.
Yes, but before we answer that question, let me also add that Carbon Global Outreach gives out scholarships
Yes.
to help um, with educational college education. So we trying to be a bridge to get you to that next level. We offer for 2-year schools, 4-year schools, and trade schools.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. And I want to talk more about that, but I do want to go back to the question of what is it that you're seeing in the community, and how are more people able to get involved to help? Because if you're talking about in the African American community, and I know that in the Hispanic community, there's also a higher percentage of poverty, but how do we help families really to sustainably lift out of poverty and to move forward so we don't see a generational cycle?
Yes. So, for instance, Corners Outreach um, got a great program, and as far as the community, I believe we need the community to get involved. So, by saying that, I partner with Corners Outreach, then another nonprofit partners with Corners Outreach to bring the gap to help lift those families struggling.
So let me ask you this. A lot of times there are families that we have partnered with or connected with where we've been able to see that transformational outcome. Is there one of those kinds of stories that you can share based on the work that you've done with Cobb Global Outreach? And you talked about the scholarships. Is there a certain family or child where you're like, wow, we caught this child in junior high or early in high school, and we were able to see that transformation?
Well, Cobb Global Outreach Inc. has only been established approximately 3 years, but still we young, but we got two success stories locally.
Yeah.
Um, and if I can call out names or
No, that you don't.
oh,
Yeah, you can just tell us about the child. That would
okay.
be great.
So a young man from North Cross and a young woman from Young Cross, North Cross, was awarded two scholarships, and that they was so thankful. Um, it allowed them to further their education.
Mhm.
So just having somebody believing in you goes a long way.
It does. It really does. And I know, when we go back to your story, Bobby, and talking about overcoming, right? Part of it is who do we have in our corner? Because a lot of times people aren't able to overcome because they feel alone. So thinking about yourself, who do you see as the people or person who motivated you to become who you are today?
Wow. I would have to say it's my mother. But overall it's just my family. They
Yeah.
push me to be great.
Yeah. And do you think so when we're looking at especially African American males, males of color in general, do you think that there are enough people in their lives, like your mom, like your family, who are able to help them to see their potential, help them to move forward when things happen in their lives?
Well, that's a kind of tricky question. I would say yes. And if that's not the case, we as a community needs to motivate, encourage, show that said kid it's a different circumstances, explore them to different outcomes, enlighten them. So it's
Yeah.
our job.
And that's basically what Cobb Global Outreach is doing, really, right? By helping to develop a sense of financial literacy, understanding with the kids and walking alongside them, and by providing the scholarships. How many scholarships did you provide this year?
Six in total.
Oh,
Uh,
that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about where some of the kids are going to college.
well, they're going to the University of Alabama, um, and Auburn University. My two guests for the Atlanta United games are both going there. So that's just a tip of the iceberg.
I love that. I love that. And so, you have some other stats on your website, um, in terms of like really getting to the understanding that young adults have of financial literacy. Talk a little bit about some of the statistics that you've seen and how Cobb Global Outreach is trying to work at decreasing the negative outcomes experienced in communities of color related to economic self-sufficiency.
Okay, so I would just quote this stat in 2016. The median Black household had a net worth of $18,000
Right.
compared to whites with 171.
That's staggering. That's a
Yeah,
staggering difference.
yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So just that stat itself um shows the problem, but addressing it can be a fairly difficult topic. But we need to address it now before it gets worse.
We do. And one of the things you talked about is getting to the youth early, right? So you start in middle school.
Yeah.
But one of the other stats that I'm looking at is education in general, right? So we're looking at the fact that about 24% of African Americans get their bachelor's degree,
Yes.
compared to um, 38% of the white population and only 17% of the Hispanic population. But what was interesting to me is that of African Americans who go to college, only 38% complete college. And I bet that a lot of that is tied to the inability to be able to afford college for the 4 years,
Yes.
right? And so what we're seeing is we're seeing a whole bunch of kids of color who cannot go on to college and stay because they can't afford it. On top of that, for those who do go in, we're looking at student loans. And one of the things that you talk about here is that the average student loan debt is $16,000. For Black students, it's $52,000. So what we're seeing is that even for the kids who finish, they're already behind. They're
Yes.
already in debt. And when they come out, a lot of times they're not getting the jobs that they think they're going to get. A lot of our kids expect that they're going to get a six-figure job, but it doesn't turn out that way. So tell me, with the financial literacy classes that you've been a part of, what are the probably two or three key things that kids really need to think about and their parents? What is it that they need to consider when they're going off to college, living on their own? What three key things would you say, hey, you need to consider this from an economic perspective?
Yes. So the first thing I mentioned is not taking that credit card as soon as you step foot on campus.
Let's stop there for just a moment. I'm so glad you shared that because I don't know how old you are, Bobby, but when I went to college, that didn't exist. We did not get credit cards. By the time my kids went to college, it was totally different. They were able to get credit cards, which amazed me. So you're right. These kids get credit cards and it already sets them up for failure. So
Yeah.
yeah, no credit cards.
Yes.
What's two and three?
Yes. So personally I like to have a plan. So either you know you got this huge student loan, so you want to avoid that. Do whatever you can to avoid taking out the loan in the first place.
Yes.
They got work study.
Yes.
Um, you can get a job, do whatever you got to. But if you got to take out the loan, finish, and then start paying it back.
I totally agree with you on that. I remember something that my husband James and I had a financial planner, and one of the things he shared a story with us about a young girl who had gone to college. And, like most kids, she was eating ramen all the time, trying to save her money, make it through. And so when she finished, she got a job and she went to the planner and she said, what do I do now? He said, remember when you were eating ramen in college? He said, continue eating ramen for the next couple of years and save your money. Don't go out and spend all of your money on a lifestyle,
Yeah.
right? And so I think one of the things we have to work with our kids on is not trying to live a high lifestyle right out of college. And to your point, I love have a plan. I've been a part of a couple of your workshops, and what people have shared is, hey, do you know what rent is now? Do you know what a car payment is? Do you know what utility costs are? And so if you take your salary and back all those things out, you realize that you really don't have a lot of money left.
No, you don't.
Yeah, and so I think that kids have an idealized view of how far their money can go.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and so back to our young men in particular, what would you say to our young men? Because there is this vision of being a pro athlete, an entertainer, and we know that those things are few and far between. What would you say to our young men and women to help them have a realistic view of their future?
Yes. So with athletes and entertainers, um that's still a job. You gotta train, dedicate so many hours a week. Well, yeah, a week to set yourself up for that. Now, there's other options. And for all youth, I can I encourage them to have a backup plan.
Mm.
Something you good at besides athletics or entertainment, but find a second passion, a third passion.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Yes. So I for those that's not um find something you're good at. Give it a try. If it's not for you, then move on to the next.
I love that because if you have something you're passionate about, then that becomes a second stream of income for you. Some type of vocational hobby, art, writing,
Yeah.
something that you can turn into a trade. I think that's a great idea. So with Cobb, you gave out, what did you say, 6 scholarships last year, correct?
Yes. And this year also.
And so with the 6 scholarships you're giving out, obviously you have a need for your organization. And so what is the biggest need that Cobb Global Outreach has to be able to fulfill its mission of financial literacy for junior high and high school students?
The biggest need Cobb Global Outreach has is like all nonprofits is typically funding. So we need an outreach of community supporters to just get behind the vision and help bring this to a fruition.
And so how can, if people are listening and they're interested in learning more or donating, how would they go about doing that, Bobby?
Yes, they can log on to the website at www.cobbglobaloutreachinc.com.
Okay, great. And so basically donations, do you need volunteers or companies that can align with you to go out and do the workshops?
Yes, we encourage um, and we need volunteers to come out if they vision is helping spread the financial literacy world to our middle and high school students. We will be glad to have them.
And how do students find out about you if they're interested in getting a scholarship?
Yes. So currently we just offer scholarships to Central High School in Phoenix
Okay,
City, Alabama, North
okay,
Coast High School in North Coast, Georgia, and Duluth High School in Duluth, Georgia. But
okay.
we always willing to expand.
And that's where the funding comes in, right? Because
Yeah,
as you get more funding, you're able to help more students to be
yeah,
able to go to college. So I think that's great. So again, it's Cobb Global Outreach,
Inc.
and your website is Cobb Global Outreach Inc.
Yes,
Inc.com.
yes,
And you're really here, the organization's purpose is to help kids to learn about financial literacy. And you see that as a way of being able to move out of poverty.
yes, correct.
Because once kids know, once their families know, then it starts to make sense to them the power of money and how to use it wisely.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I would Georgia as a state. just passed, the Governor Kemp signed a bill, the financial literacy bill, which would be going into effect the start of next year,
Okay.
school year. So that bill offers 1 semester of financial literacy to high school students.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, but that's only in Georgia. So
Okay. Okay. But I think that's really moving forward because to your point, just a lot of kids don't understand and frankly a lot of parents don't understand the power of budgeting, especially when you're going off to college. And that gets back to your point of the fact that a lot of kids are coming out of college with debt
yes, they
and
are.
they're already starting behind. So I applaud your work. And I applaud the fact that you used an incident that happened to you that would have set a lot of people back, but you used it to move you forward and to help people. So I love that. Thank
Uh,
you for sharing everything that you do. Thank you for connecting organizations to young people so that they can learn about different options as well, different banking options, insurance, and things of that nature. This is great. It's been great having you on, Bobby. And before I go today, I just wanted to thank WCEG for the opportunity to be on the air with Onward. I've loved being able to talk to people like Bobby and others about their lives, their experiences, the things that they're doing in the community. I don't take this opportunity lightly because people share a lot, and I'm grateful that they trust me and they trust this time. This is like a ministry for me, so I'm grateful to God for this opportunity. I hope everybody has an amazing day, and we will see you again in September when we start again with Onward. And a big shout out to Penny Rogers for all the amazing work that she does for WCEG. Thanks again, Bobby. Have a great rest of the day. And as I always end, y'all, gotta run.